I've been told by everybody up on this roof that they're all off the roof. I am on the roof of exposure 4. Got fire through the roof of the fire building in the entire rear section.
Now remember, given the payday, has he been accounted for? Okay.
610B. That was the Mayday. 610B.
I'm here. We got a fire. 1.5-story, single-family dwelling. Fire shown from the second floor. Give me a second alarm on this.
Coming up to the top floor. I got people hanging out the top floor windows with a baby.
Commercial building. A lot of fire, a lot of smoke. Go ahead and strike a third alarm on my orders on this.
Got people on the front fire escape here with windows vented below them. We need somebody up there.
Yeah, let them know we got a job. I'm pulling up now. Second alarm, I got a 1-story single-family frame. Heavy fire showing from the attic.
So we're using all hands. We got one line stretch, fire on the 4th floor. Second line being stretched. Primary searches are underway.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to our podcast, Old School. I'm Chief Rick Lasky, along with my best buddy, Chief John Salka. And we're putting together our training calendars, our podcast calendars, everything else goes along there, all the fun stuff that we love doing. But John, first of all, everybody doing good at home?
Everybody's just fine. Got a house full of people living in my house right now, which is fun.
and you're added to the grandchildren list, man. You're gonna, just go buy a bus but leave all the bus seats in it this time, okay?
No, I don't think we're going to need a bus. We got 4 and 2 more on the way. And as long as they all live where they live and I live where I live, we'll be good.
You're not trying to catch Mickey Convoy, are you? He puts those group pictures and it's like, oh my God.
He's either 9 or 10 now. I forget what it is. Yeah, he's up. He's up there.
Well, anyway, hey, John, we just finished a program with Columbia Southern University, one of our battalion chief / field chief training academies in Evergreen, Colorado. And what an incredible place. What a great fire chief. What a great group. I'm just telling you, how many times have we said this before, buddy, where we've been to classes and we never see the fire chief. And again, some guys are busy. I understand it. Some guys and gals are busy, but we just like we did last time we were there for the battalion, for the Company Officer Academy. He met us. He was there. He sat through the whole class. How often does that happen?
Right. And we've been to, dozens, and how many classes we've done over the years. And certainly some chiefs have stayed, but less than a handful, less than 4 or 5 guys in all the years we've been doing it. And this chief was one of them. Stayed for both days, the whole day. Went out once or twice for a phone call or whatever he had to do, but was there otherwise. And, we know chiefs are busy. They got a lot of stuff to do related to whatever's going on in the class or with their membership. But there's other stuff going on, too, with the city manager and with all sorts of other stuff. So it's just, that's why it's worth mentioning when a guy stays, because he's given up doing some of the other stuff we wanted to get done that day and making some other people maybe wait or call him back tomorrow. So, it's appreciated. And he was a great guy anyway. He really did like the class. And, I think he had a lot of similar ideas about leadership and what chiefs do that we do.
Well, and the facility was incredible. They're obviously doing good budget-wise. We kept teasing them, but it was great. And this was one of ours for our listeners. If a bunch of you have been to our classes before, John and I each do our own thing. That we do a lot of stuff together. And back in 2011, when we really kicked off the Company Officer Academy in a different direction, if you will, we kind of retooled it. Columbia Southern University is our second family, if you will, jumped in there with us and, talked about hosting programs and different things like that. And they're absolutely incredible. You know me, John, we love Columbia Southern University. The people there the whole university is just chock full of great people. I'm an alum. I got my degree through them. I'm on the CSU advisory board. Yesterday we were talking about another doctorate, another PhD degree that they're looking at, and some other stuff. And they're always cutting edge. They're always looking at what they can do to make a difference out there. And the people that are not just obviously public safety, but selfishly public safety, but for everybody. But John, when we started, golly, man, back in 2011, our point of contact, our coordinator for CSU through the outreach programs was Megan Snyder. Megan was awesome. And then, like a lot of people, she got moved to a different position. I think a better position, if you will. You're always trying to expand your career. And we missed Megan, and then we got Tori Holland, and Tori was freaking incredible for years and years. She was awesome. And then when she left, both you and I were kind of panicked. We're like, oh, there's no way we're going to get 3 in a row that are that awesome. I mean, I remember you and I talking like, well, if we don't get a good one, we're just done. We're not doing anymore with them.
Right.
And then Mimi Henning came into the picture, and she's been with us what 6, 7 years? What do you think?
Something like that. I asked her the last time we were together, and then she said 6 or 7. I couldn't remember what it was, but it's considerable.
And she's another one. She's phenomenal. And her last promotion, they let her double up her duties and stay with us. But this time, very sadly, she promoted to a director's position, and she's going to be leaving us. But
yeah, she's the one moving on now. Yeah.
But you mentioned before when we were talking the other day. I think the folks that the particular division they're handing us off to. I think Sherry Twitty is the director there, and you met Sherry. I said everybody from there is phenomenal. I think I'm sad, but I'm happy for Mimi. I know you are, but I'm excited that we'll be working with Sherry and her team. So, our CSU family will continue, and we'll do some good things. And John, we always talk about this as well. FDIC is coming up in April. As a reminder, we're there the whole week, folks. John and I are doing a workshop. So many people asked us, buddy, every year, we're doing different programs, organizing the Fireground, the Chief Officer Field Training Academy, Fireground Scenario Workshops, so many different programs. And years and years ago, we started teaching in the 90s, and through that, our 5-alarm leadership, real leadership, real people program. So many people kept saying, when are you going to bring it back to FDIC? When are you going to bring it back? When are you going to, do this? When are you going to do that? And well, we did it. The boss, Chief David Rhodes and Diane Rothschild, approved us changing things up, folks. So I believe on Monday this year, just double check. Sometimes the schedule changes. We'll be doing our 4-hour workshop, as John would say, ripped from the pages of our leadership book, 5-alarm leadership, firehouse, from the firehouse to the fireground. So we'll be doing that on Monday. Probably on Wednesday, we're not sure, but again, due to the request from the attendees, we'll be doing the 3 Degrees of Mayday again. That'll be one of our breakout sessions, and then we'll be in the book booth, and we're going to be doing our radio show and all that different stuff the whole week. So we're looking forward to seeing you. John, I guess, and we always say this, we never have an agenda. We don't have a script. We don't usually know what our topic's even going to be.
Right. We have no idea what we're going to talk about. Right.
And we have no idea what we're talking about. But so let's just talk for a little bit here about the very topic we just started talking about. We just talked about Columbia Southern being an evergreen. We got a bunch of programs all year long. We were in Pearland, Texas, with our buddy Curtis and Chief Taylor, Jay Taylor there, great boss. You just came back from the training days down in Virginia. We've got so much going on. All you got to do is go to our calendar, go to my website at chieflasky.com, chieflasky.com, check out the calendar. Anything John and I do together is posted on there. That's open to the general fire service population. But I guess the question, and this comes up a lot, John, you hear a lot of guys that come to our classes say they tried to get some of their buddies on shift or some of the other volunteers to come to the class. And the question they get hit with, John, is, why should I do any outside training? I mean, I'm here, I do, Monday night drill nights or Wednesday night drill nights, or I do my shift training. What's the benefit of outside training? And so let me throw that at you, because we've had a bunch of people ask us that. So, what do I say to these guys that say, why should I get in my car and drive somewhere? I mean, forget even talking whether I'm getting paid to be there or not or whatever, but what are some, let's talk about, what are some of the benefits of outside training?
It's amazing. And obviously we're on the other side of that. We're delivering training at a lot of these places, but in years gone by, before we got into training and teaching and being officers, we were attendees. We were the guys that would jump in a car or a pickup or an airplane occasionally, going to all these different seminars, and then we started teaching ourselves. But back to the question is, what's the benefit? There is so much great training going on, and it seems to me like even if you took 10 years ago and 20 years ago as benchmarks, as times, and looked back, 10 years ago there was a lot less training going on than there is now, and 20 even less. I think it's a growing, trend. A lot of places from, a lot of the Fools chapters run training every year. There's a lot of organizations that do it on a regular basis. Obviously, you and I have been to, probably hundreds of either Chiefs associations or firefighters associations. We know Sue up here in New York State Association.
I love her.
What a great conference she runs up there with that whole group. She doesn't do it alone, but she does a lot of the work, and she's like the voice, of that association. And she does a lot of the setting up and selecting of
John, let me interrupt you for a second. So for those that don't know Sue from New York State Fire Chiefs, if you met her, I love her and I love her personality, but she could come off with you like she's the boss, and she's she has that tough, but she's
gonna smack the crap out of you if you mess up. Yeah.
But
you might feel that way. Yeah.
Oh, but she's got a heart as big as the state of New York. You know what I'm saying? She's kind of one of those people that, she puts out that, and she is tough, but oh my God, she's an awesome, a tremendous heart, great person. I'm sorry, I just had to throw that there, but keep going, buddy.
No, it is great. It is great. And I'm not giving her any more airtime here than anybody else, because I'm going to mention some other places too. But that's a perfect example. These Chiefs associations, firefighter associations. Then you got places like the Fools. Then you got individual fire departments. Orlando's been running that conference down there for years. A lot of individual fire departments runs it. And then there's other big ones. Other bigger organizations. FDTN, Fire Department Training Network. I never ever fail to throw a compliment their way. And to Jimmy McCormick runs probably some of the most, you take it how you want to take it, probably some of the most amazing, realistic training.
Talk about
anywhere in the whole country.
Talk about Brian's experience. Your son's a firefighter. Okay, he's a former Marine, but a firefighter. Worked for some great departments. And I remember when he did one class or two, but he did hands-on training while we were down there. He's hard to wear out. He's a fitness nut, but oh my God,
it was phenomenal. And I shadowed him a little bit to see what he was doing. And I didn't even watch everything because I was teaching as well. But the one class that Brian went to, it was an engine and truck. It was a basic firefighting class. And the one thing I like to talk about, and I was just talking about it 2 days ago when I was down at the Training Days conference down in Alexandria. It was the forcible entry. Now, this isn't the only forcible entry they learned. They learned a lot of forcible entry skills and techniques, but then they had this forcible entry, for lack of a better term. It wasn't a prop. It was a building. You go into it was a brick building with a peaked roof on it, not a gigantic one, but you'd step in and step to your left, and down the left-hand side of that building. Now, if you walked in that door and walked straight through it, there was another door at the other end. But on both the left and the right side were door props. Maybe 5 or 6 or 7 of them. The number doesn't matter. On the left, and then they were on the right. And you went in with a partner. You stepped immediately to your left to the first door, and you went in. There was normal visibility, no face pieces on. You each had a tool in your hand, and you popped an outward opening door, meaning a door that moved away from you. And then you switched tools and stepped into the next door 3 feet away and did that one. Then you switched tools again and did that one. Then at the end, you made a U-turn to the other side of that little room, and you forced all those doors, and all those doors were doors that opened towards you. And when and there was 3 guys, 2 guys behind you, behind them, and there were guys in there resetting the doors. And when you got all done, when everybody came out, you went in a second time, this time with face pieces on. Then a third time, I think you went in with face pieces with air. Then a fourth time you went in, there was smoke, and you forced all those doors again and again, and they must have forced almost 90 doors. It took a couple of hours. And the last time you went in, it was hard to stand up. That's how hot and smoky it was. It was hard to stand up. And I'm telling you, somebody who never forced a door in their life could, by the time they left that day, feel confident in forcing, an inward or an outward opening door in almost any conditions. And that's just one example. They pay the same attention to detail for roof cutting and for search and for hose line advancement and for climbing ladders. And they even have a prop there for the apartments that are all full of crap and bogged down with junk and furniture and stuff like that. They have all angles there. I don't want to overstate it, which I don't think you can, but he has his own newsletter that goes out there, and it's fdtraining.com. It's absolutely phenomenal, and he has classes. I don't know if he has them all year long, but he's got live fire combat. One of them is a weekend long class. I think it's Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. I think you do 38 fires. You personally, every attendee actually responds to and works at 38 working fires. It's just beyond terrific.
Oh, it's just, and again, I asked you to mention that for a reason, because we've talked about that at class before, and sometimes on our shows as well. And I want to roll this back. Having you just mentioned that, to the old days, and you hinted at this before. There was a time a long time ago, John, where you read Firehouse magazine, you read Fire Engineering, and that was pretty much it. And you had to get in your car, and you had to drive 2 hours, an hour, 3 hours, 4 hours to go see Chief John Salka, Chief John Norman, whatever, Chief Albert. And now, you said it, there's so many great groups out there. We've mentioned this a couple of times on the show. We kind of rolled backwards in the way of our aggressiveness. I'll just say it out loud. We kind of got off in the weeds on a bunch of stuff. Some of it needed to be there, some of it I think didn't. But you can't go to social media, John, now. You can't go to Instagram or those people, the people who use TikTok or anything, and scroll through it without seeing, videos and posts of guys doing, they're forcing doors, they're cutting holes in roofs, they're nozzles. Guys are out there. I talked about it yesterday or the other day at our Hump Day Hangout. You see they got their bunker pants on, they got their baseball caps on, they're on the nozzle, working lines with people and stuff. And it's so exciting to see that again. And actually it's so exciting to see all the different groups out there. A lot of great instructional groups and instructors. Our friend Frank Viscuso and some other folks are out there doing so many great programs. But it brings me back to, number one, not everybody has the money to attend a lot of conferences, but some of them are free, John. Some of them, it's just a matter of you getting up Saturday morning, and driving or a weekday or making your time. But how many times have we been? I'd say about half. Would you agree about half or better the people that attend our programs are there on their own dime? They're, the department didn't pay for
it. Oh yeah. I mean, we go to plenty where the department is not only generous, but they're paying attention to training and professional development, and they'll run something. But we've been to just as many where it's run by, whether it's the Fools or the Wichita Hot Guys or the FD Training Network, where everybody's bucking up on their own. Now you go to the Fire Department Training Network, and sometimes half the class is from one place. Half the class is from, whatever it is, the Asheville Fire Department. Matter of fact, there were some Asheville guys there when I was there. There'll be 23 guys there, all sent by their fire department, which is great. And then the rest of the class, the other 18 guys in the class, 2 from here, 1 from there, 3 from there, 1 from there, all on their own dime, their own car, their own gas, their own tolls, their own hotel rooms. So we know we're not preaching to the choir here. We know we're talking to everybody, but there are people that are already bought into this. There are people that don't need to hear what we're going to say, because they're already going to all these classes.
And some of this, John, is, we go to so many places now. I always said CSU, and I'll just pick on us. The two of us go somewhere for 3 days worth of training, and there's coffee and snacks and everything there in the morning. Sometimes a sponsor a vendor or somebody will pay for lunch or bring lunch in. And even if they don't, 3 days, you get your goodie bags with CSU, you get your CEUs if you want them, you get all that for, I think it's like $200. I don't know where you can go and get 3 days of training like that. But then there's the places that go, I'm not charging anybody. We're just going to bring you guys in, and you get there in the morning, and there's like they've got breakfast there and lunch and all that. And I'm like, God, how do you not take advantage of that? And I know everybody has competing demands. They have kids playing soccer, things that got to get done at home and so on and so forth. And you can't be like gone every week doing training. But, like you said before, the benefits I think sometimes more than that, you get out and you get to see things that you would never see in your own shop, right, John? Things that you get out and you go, I talked about Jimmy Spears from Wichita West, flew himself up to Firehouse Expo just to go through the hot class with the Wichita guys with nozzles. He says, I want to go through a good nozzle, a good hands-on class. I want water to come out of the nozzle. I want someone to show me this stuff. Now granted, he had the ability to do that, the means, but at the same time, there's a guy that said, I want to be better at something that I wasn't going to get quite here or quite there or whatever. How many times have we been places? And I'll go back to, and not to embarrass you or Bill Gustin, I'm going to say, because we're talking about training, the guy that posted on Facebook, I said it one of our last shows. He goes, I'm at the TEACS Leadership Symposium in Frisco, Texas. And he goes, I'm sitting here and I got done watching Bill Gustin this morning, and Chief John Salka just got done. And we're in the afternoon session. And in the very front row, Chief Salka and Captain Gustin are sitting next to each other. Both have notepads out there taking notes. And that's so awesome. And the first thing I thought of, because, it's you and I, I'm like, because we're just a couple of, chooch firefighters. What's the big deal? Really? You don't think we go to classes and sit there? I mean, and on one hand, I'm going, that shouldn't be so surprising that you see somebody with 50 years in the fire service, two guys with over 100 years between the two of them, with a freaking notepad in their hands taking notes. I guess I'll just be very blunt. To some other people, what's your excuse? When to not be able to sit in the classroom and learn and gain some, to like Gord Graham would say, every now and then we all need to sharpen our saw, but to learn a new technique, or to listen to somebody talk about something, or an old skill that we're revisiting to see how we're doing. I mean, how many times have you sat through programs, John, and went, I didn't know that, or I've never seen that before, and you're starting to
right. I mean, how many times have I said that to you? Sometimes sitting in class, not sitting in class, sometimes teaching class. Sometimes I'm standing up there, and I'll say the same thing to you. Sometimes I'm listening to you, and you're saying something. I'm like, holy cow, that is true. And I'm standing next to you. We're up on stage presenting together, and I'm writing down on a little card. I'm writing a little note saying, I got to remember to throw that in this class myself. That's a good piece of information. There's so much information out there, being presented by and invented by. There's new stuff being invented, right? By so many people out there. Now, for example, last week at the Volunteer Fire Department right here that I belong to, South Blooming Grove, was drill night last night. And, I was down there, and my son Brian was down there. Brian's a two-time firefighter. He's already been in 2 different fire departments in the past 5 years, and this is actually his third, this volunteer stint that he's having right now. And he jumped in last night to help me do a drill on power saw operations and portable ladders and stuff. And I was aghast. I was like, oh my God. I sent him a little text message last night after we got home. Brian, that was fantastic. I can't believe you've developed into such a knowledgeable and, inspiring firefighter. And frankly, it's almost like he's a natural instructor as well. He was teaching last night like he was a professional instructor on the road teaching people about power source. You know what I'm saying? Well, so my point is, there's so much out there, even just from the firefighters in your own local volunteer or career fire department, or the guys in your own company. How could you not go out and see some of this outside training and expand your horizons a little bit? Because there are so many people out there offering so many things. I mentioned the Orlando Fire Conference. Just Google that. You'll find it, the Orlando Fire Conference. I think they have it just about the same time every year.
Right.
Wichita Hot, which is where Brian just came from, the Wichita, Kansas Fire Department, which I didn't know how to spell Wichita until about a year ago. And then he got on the job there. I visited the academy. I went and rode with him once or twice and met some other people there. Sam and a bunch of other people.
Sam
Hiddle, who's out there on the circuit, right? He was just with me at training days in Alexandria. And there are so many things going on out there. Wichita Hot is a great place. I think I have that thing here. WichitaHot@gmail.com. My point is, there's so many places, and these, especially these developed conferences that come up every year or every other year, some of them, they recruit new people in all the time. So you're always getting a little variable message. You're not just getting the same 5 guys all the time, and it's I sound excited because I am. And not too many things get me excited, but the training that's going on in the American Fire Service is really quite phenomenal. And those of you that are listening, you newbies, you new guys that have 5 or 10 years in the fire service compared to Rick and I, boy, aren't you lucky. There's so much more available now to you than was available to us back then. We'd have the FDIC, maybe the Firehouse Expo, and maybe there'd be a couple other little small conferences going on. Now there's probably 2 or 3 a week all year long. All year long. There's got to be 100 conferences, in the United States or more every year.
Well, when we talk about go-to guys like we do all the time in our programs, John, the go-to guys that we love hanging with, the people we love, the kind of firefighter that you wish could work for you all the time are the ones that make the time. They're the ones reading the magazines. They're the ones going to the conferences. They're the ones, zipping over and going and doing an evening session, somewhere in Long Island or whatever, or coming out on a Saturday or weekday. One of the things we touch on in our company officer academy, John, is, and I know you know this very well, is that one bullet point that we talk about when it comes to training that, company officers, make it an enjoyable outing. And how many times we say this in class, we've been in classes and a guy will come up to the table and we'll be signing books and I'll go, Chiefs, I gotta be honest with you, I really don't want to be here today. And I'm like, oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. No, really. I really don't want to be here. I go, that's twice now you said it. No, Chief, I didn't want to be here. Okay, now that's 3 times you said you didn't want to be here. He goes, yeah, my captain's like, next month, this Salka and Lasky guy, he said these 2 Chiefs are coming to this program. How about we all go? How about we get C shift to come in early for us? Let's go grab breakfast. We're going to drive. It's about a 45-minute hour drive. We're going to drive there, get there. We're going to hang out all day. After class, we're going to go to TR's pub and get a sandwich and beer and kick back and all that stuff. And he goes, I'm so glad that my captain talked me into this. And the good bosses, the great leaders out there do that, don't they? They make it an enjoyable outing. It's, and you and I say all the time, we can spot them because they're kind of cliquey and we like that. You look out there and you see 3 guys or gals sitting together and you go, what are you? I'm the lieutenant. I'm a firefighter. The great company officers, their firefighters want to sit with them. And you've heard me say this how many times. If I was going to a class or a training with Bill Allen, I would force a guy out of his chair. I'd be like squeezing in between him and Bill Allen going, okay, get ready to feel some man thigh here because I knew if I sat next to Bill Allen, there were going to be plenty of times he's going to lean over and go, and, or, also, or, and I knew I was going to get the class, but I was going to get additional training, John, because my boss, it wasn't just sit here, pay attention. I mean, he was throwing stuff out there. It was like a bonus in the class. And I know you've always said it. I say too, training has always been our favorite part of the day, whether it's at the volley place or at the career place or whatever. Training should be a hardship. It should be something you're looking forward to doing, whether it's in-house or out of the firehouse. And we're talking about, the benefits of going outside training. But how many times have we said that where, it shouldn't be cumbersome. It should be, something, oh God, we gotta go do training today. There should be a little bump in your step when you're going to classes, right?
Absolutely. And there's a cost. Sometimes there's a dollar cost. Sometimes there's a shift change cost. Sometimes there's a, 2 or 3 days out of a week that maybe we're going to do something else, or maybe your wife or your significant other would rather you be traveling. There's always a cost to it. But you and I both know, and I think a lot of people listening probably know as well, that it's well worth it. Once in a while, you might go somewhere and say, well, you know what, that was more of a review than really a learning thing. But even then it's worthwhile because maybe you drag some of the young guys in your crew or your shift along and said, you see, guys, every class is like this. You're going to learn new stuff every day, So, yeah, there's a cost for everything. Everything has a cost, maybe whether it's your time, maybe you got to lay out a couple of bucks, maybe you got to call a couple of swaps in or pay a couple of tours back to some guys to cover for you while you're gone. But I've never, in the early days as a student or even later on as an instructor, sometimes I get invited to go teach somewhere. And it's a bit of a sacrifice for me to go do that, But I do it and I never come back and say, boy, that was a waste of time. I always come back and say, boy, I'm glad I went. I'm glad I moved things around and I'm glad I did the things I had to do to get to be there,
Well, let's do this. We've mentioned it would be impossible to mention all the training opportunities that are out there. We always talk about FDIC, Firehouse Expo. We talk about Sue. We talk about Jimmy McCormick. But as we close this particular episode of Old School out, John, And I always do this to you. The old put my buddy on the spot. What advice do you have? And break it into a couple different categories. Talk to the rookie or the senior firefighter. What do you say to him or her? And the same thing for the company officer, even the chiefs. When it comes to the benefit of seeking outside training, what would you say to them? If I'm going to go back to what we start off saying at the beginning of the show. So, Chief Salka, why, what's the benefit of me going outside my department? Should they be giving me everything? What am I going to gain?
You know what? It's the same benefit that everybody else gets. The people that work for IBM or the people that work for a telephone company or for a construction company, the same benefit that those people get from going to training outside of their little realm, outside of their little department, their little box, their little county. Some guys say, we go to the county training center. And that is good. That is outside training. It's not your fire department. It's some other instructors. You with a bunch of people from around the county or the state or whatever your jurisdiction is. But the idea is to be thinking outside the box, to climb outside the box, to see what else is going out there. I told you when I visited, I wasn't even going outside training. I just went to an outside fire department when I visited my son. And I come back with a couple of ideas from Wichita about the portable ladder that had roof hooks at both ends, and both ends of both rails were butts. You could put that ladder up either way, and the butt was on the ground. And if you got up to the roof and you had the hooks engaged at the peak, but you suddenly wanted to slide it over the peak to the other side, you didn't have to swing the ladder around. You just had to close those hooks, slide the ladder up, drop it out to the other side, and open the other set of hooks. And I noticed today I was looking today at the Firehouse Magazine, as a matter of fact, and one of the pages that I opened had a couple of guys up on a roof. It was about cutting peak roofs, and I could see the bottom of the ladder, not the top of the ladder that was hooked on the peak, but the bottom of the ladder had two closed folded hooks on it. And there's some other people that were doing the same thing. My story is about the fact that I learned that at Wichita. And I learned about guys that had these little rings hanging off their coat so they could take a Halligan and just drop it through that ring and let go of it. And they could do a search or climb a ladder or do something else and then pick it back up. I've never seen that before. And I saw that in Wichita for the first time as well. And there's stuff like that everywhere you go. Every conference you go to, you'll see something like that. Every other fire department you go visit that a friend or a colleague is working at, you'll be like, what's that? And they'll say, oh, we did that a couple of years ago. We saw that at a show we went to. So obviously the lesson or my advice is to get out there and see what's out there in the rest of the world instead of reinventing the wheel yourself. A lot of stuff's already been invented, discovered, and put together somewhere else.
Oh, and you made me think of something. I lead you down the path when we're in class sometimes to set you up for different points about things you've learned at other conferences. And there's just like you said, there's so many things, not just observations when you're out there, but other conferences. And one of them was the and we don't have to talk about now, we've talked about before, but about they're not your seconds. You came back from that conference in Oregon and you give credit to the instructor and you talk about that instructor and you say, what a great point he made. And now you're spreading his word, in other programs that other people are gaining from something that you learned. So, my thing is it's out there. They're out there. The means nowadays, you have to work harder to be disinterested. You have to work harder to not be interested in the fire service. Between the apps on your smart devices, your computer, the webinars, the podcasts, the shows, the videos, the articles, there are so many ways for you to get training. For the people who say there's nothing out there, they're out of their minds. There's so many great opportunities to go see a lot of great people. So that's it. What's the benefit of outside training? I think that's what we'll call this one, buddy. You agree?
Yep.
We'll call it that. John, if they want to get a hold of you, best email?
ChiefJohnSalka@gmail.com.
And I'm Chief Lasky @gmail.com. And we hope we get to see you, obviously, in Indian FDIC and that we get to see some of our upcoming programs. Like I said, John and I are out there doing our own things, and then we do stuff together. You can go to my website, chieflasky.com, and check out the calendar. And it has stuff I'm doing, but also has all the stuff that John and I are doing together. Go ahead, buddy. You got something?
Before we sign off, I want to mention, if anybody hasn't heard, Chief Ronnie Coleman from out in California.
Yes.
A fire service icon, right?
Yes.
Right up there with Brunacini and Vinnie Dunn and a lot of other people that have gone and still here with us, around for a long, long time, teaching and inventing and making the fire service better. Just passed away, and you'll see it on Facebook and all the other places that you visit. Just a great guy. Hate to see a great guy like that exit stage left without a little applause.
Well, and I agree with you. And he's another one, like we used to talk about, and we still talk about, Chief Alan Brunacini, that their impact will be felt forever in the fire service. People may not remember 20 years from now some of the names of those that have left us. And it's funny because so many people don't realize when they're talking about stuff or doing stuff, that the only reason they're doing that is because that was an idea Bruno came up with. I always kind of talk about like the get out alive, saving your own stuff. When I see somebody doing ladder bales, I see him doing, the Denver rescue, all different things. I go, yeah, that's what we did. That's what we started, and they have no idea we did. But the impact.
That's fine, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because you and I don't care. Our whole point was to spread the word. Ronnie Coleman will be remembered for a long time, and his impact will be there for a long time.
Absolutely.
Well, folks, appreciate you joining us. Please spread the word about Old School. Go back, start the beginning. Tell them if you listen to this one for the first time, and we've done for several years now. We've done this particular podcast. You can catch our other podcasts at fireengineering.com, the command post. And then John and I and Chief Terry McGrath from Louisville and Chief Scott Thompson from the Colony have the third Wednesday of every month, our Hump Day Hangout at Fire Engineering. This month, we had the guys from Arlington, Texas that made 3 grabs, mom and 2 kids. Everything we talk about in our training, you talk about guys that go outside and get their stuff. Arlington, plus they got a great new boss, John. They got a great new freaking fire chief there. I'd love to work for that guy. But that being said, folks, we always end all of our shows with a very important reminder, and that's please keep the men and women of armed forces in your thoughts and prayers. And remember, never forgetting means just that, never forgetting. Thank you. We'll see you next time. God bless and be safe.
Bye-bye.